Hello, thanks for joining us again for another episode of Living Beyond the Numbers for the Planning Center. I am your host, Jude Boudreaux. I'm here with Caleb Arringdale, our Director of Positivity.
Hello.
And today we've got our special guest is Michelle Maton, who's one of our shareholders and partners in our Chicago office. So welcome, Michelle. We're really excited to have you here today.
Yeah, it's exciting to be here.
Yeah, thanks. So we often like to start with just kind of like how people got to the planning center when they're part of our firm. So yeah, maybe share a little bit about kind of that origin story and how it came to be that we work together now.
Well, I was living in California, graduated from college, and my mother had started a financial planning firm in Chicago. And I decided that it would be easier to work with her than it would be to work for a big bank or whoever I was working for at the moment. Actually, I was working in a pension consulting firm. So it was like adjacent to financial planning, but it just sounded a lot more fun. So I moved back from California to work with her, and we built a business together, small business. We had a couple of employees. And as we both got kind of a little closer to retirement age, I decided it would be a good idea to think about what the future might hold for me. And that's when I started talking to other members of the planning center. I had met Marty years ago, Marty Kurtz, and it just sounded like we had a lot in common and kind of approached client service the same way, which is a hard thing to do in our business. And yeah, we made the big step to join the planning center. So that was in 2016. So it's been a number of years. It's been great. It's been great not to have to be the chief cook and bottle washer and do a whole bunch of things besides planning, because now I can just do planning.
As somebody who had my own practice and then merged in as well, I tell other planners yeah, of course you don't get to make all of the decisions anymore, but it's really nice to somebody asked me what my rent was in New Orleans, and I don't know. I knew it when we went through the negotiations, but like Amy and LaTrinda are on top of that. So like I get so much more focus on just what I do and the things that I can be good at. And I think that, it's probably very much the same for you.
Yeah, very much the same.
Yeah. So, I assume a lot of people who are listening will be clients and they'll remember, your mom, Cicely. So tell me a little bit about, not everybody I think would choose to go and work with their mother perhaps. So, but you made that leap. So what was that like? How did that go for the two of you? What was it like working together?
For the most part, it was really great. Every once in a while we would be like, our husbands would get tired of like business talk at dinner. And so we had to have a few rules about that. But, other than that, most of the time we kind of saw eye to eye, and we were close enough in how we worked and thought, but slightly different enough that it worked out pretty well. I really enjoyed it.
So how did your mom go about building a business in Chicago in a time when this was, an absolutely male-dominated industry?
She focused on a niche, and that was women going through divorce. And she found an attorney or some attorneys who would work with her, providing the financial support for women going through divorce. And she did seminars. She did seminars all across the Chicagoland area, usually with one of these attorneys. And we charged like $49. And we didn't make money on the seminars, but out of those seminars came clients. And we built on that. And then out of those first like women clients, we got like their sons or other people who knew them. So, just over time you build on your existing client base. So that was kind of our initial group of people that we had.
And something that I think is, pretty special. And if you caught the episode before where we talked with Eric Keys, our CEO, about, helping those founders retire, is that, it's now part of my responsibility, certainly a lot of yours, Michelle, to serve some of those, those first clients, those first women or so who came on. And it's amazing to see, like in the 30-year history and the portfolio and all of this, all the background and all the life that we've gotten to go through with them, and that your mom can retire and step away, and that, we're still here taking care of the people that are important to her.
Right. That was really important to her when we were in negotiations with the planning center, was just, are my clients going to be well cared for?
Yeah. Oh,
so I think they have been.
Yeah. And I don't know that anything would have mattered more to Cicely as somebody who got to work with her for quite a while. And so that's great. But seems to be just as active as ever. So maybe give us the brief update, because I'm sure some of those clients are listening in too.
She's been traveling a lot, probably 3 or 4 big trips a year. So she's really, she sometimes travels with us and sometimes without us, and travels on her own. So she puts these trips together. It's great. So
yeah,
she's been having a good time.
I remember talking to her at one of her last meetings at the planning center, and I asked her like what she was going to do next. She said, "Well, my next plan is to go to Korea and spend a month following some K-pop group." And she was close to 80 at the time. I was like, "Wow, Cicely is amazing. Just an amazing person."
Yeah, she's been to Korea twice and she retired. So
yeah, whenever clients ask, I always say, like, she's the person you knew. Like, she's doing the same things and wearing her hats and out living and doing all of the things. So it's great. It was such a great example for many of us to be able to see and follow. So yes, I mean, I guess if that kind of started with these women who were going through divorce and in this kind of transition part, I think that leads into I feel like what I think of as one of your specialties, which is kind of working with women in transition, and you have some advanced training in that too. So you maybe tell us a little bit about like that financial transitionist program and what that means for you.
Well, for Cicely and I, it kind of became clear that, I mean, divorce is one of many transitions, and there's lots of others that happen in people's lives. Some may be happier than divorce, and some not. And, that's the time when people really need planning. They aren't as worried about, I don't know, investments or these other things. They really need to figure out what they want out of life and how to get it and where to go next. And they have this opportunity because transition's an opportunity to change a life and make your life better, hopefully, and come up with a new normal, as we say in FTI. So we've been a member of that group for a long time, and it is different, especially the bigger the change, the more you need some extra training and extra tools. I mean, working with a widow who's lost her husband suddenly is not the same as working with a couple who are coming in wondering if their retirement's going to be okay. So it is helpful to have like-minded people to bounce things off of and be part of that group, and have tools that are created specifically for those situations so that you can pull them out and kind of have a script and know what to do. So it's been really helpful to have some of that.
I think as advisors, all of us know that, when these things happen, obviously it's a big thing. And I think there's so few that go forward and say, well, I'm going to do some special program that's really focused on this time. And it's the language and things from the Financial Transitionist Institute I find so helpful when last year I had a couple of people whose partners died after long lives and long marriages, and be able to sit in that space and talk to them and ask certain questions is I think just one of the most important things we get to do for the clients we get to work with.
I agree.
I guess tell us a little bit more about some of those transitions. And you mentioned the opportunity part, and I think that's maybe it's hard to see sometimes at the beginning, but is obviously a really important part of this. So maybe share a little more on that.
Sure. Well, that's what we call the passage, and it's a messy time, right? It's chaotic. It can be very chaotic for people. It could feel that way to people. So we try to bring some stability to that time by just saying, okay, you don't have to accomplish everything You don't have to do everything. Let's just do one thing at a time. Let's do the most important things first. Let's leave these other decisions until later when you feel more able to handle them. If we're talking about a widow, for instance. Or I have a client right now who's increased their net worth by a lot. And so they have this opportunity to kind of go back. And, he asked me, well, what do we do with this money? And I'm like, well, that's not really the right question yet. We have to figure out what you want to do. We have to kind of start all over again. So they've been clients for a while. We did a plan, but now this means they have a lot more resources to do more things that they didn't think were possible before. So what does that mean? So truly, they have to go back and kind of reinvent themselves. And, what are the things that they want to keep? What do they want that's really important about their lives that they want to keep now?
Mm-hmm.
What will be in the future? What things can they build that they really want? So it's really important to have all that before you go and invest the money or do whatever. We really have to really go back and kind of start all over, is what I told him.
And you mentioned the passage there, but what does the full transition process look like? What would you say the steps of that are?
Well, for some transitions, there's anticipation, right? So you think you might get an inheritance, or it's a long illness and your partner's going to be passing away. So there's some anticipation there. And then there's the ending when the event actually happens. So the person dies, the divorce is final, the money, you get the money, you sell your business and the money's in the bank. All of that's the ending. Once you're in ending, then you're in passage, right? That's the next step. And it ranges in time period. I know everyone in this culture kind of wants to get the answer tomorrow. But these things take time. If you think about a widow, it's going to take a while. And for some widows, I've been doing this work a long time, and I have some widows that I don't think they'll ever really recover. I'm not sure that they'll ever really be, like some amazing blossoming. But their grief is going to go on forever, and it's going to be so debilitating that it's going to be hard for them. But passage goes on for however long it needs to go on. And then at the end of passage, there's a new normal. And I think for a lot of people, I think they wake up one day and they're like, I'm in the new place. I'm the new me.
Yeah, I think clients we all want certainty that really isn't offered to us in this world. But they want to know, when is this going to happen? And I don't know. You want me to wager a guess? Longer than you think, 18 months, or it's going to be a while. But it, holding on to the space of possibility, I think within that is, becomes its own gift, because ultimately clients will get there and see that. But I think maybe share a little bit more about I think it's important when we talk about slowing down kind of the process in that transition space in this passage. Maybe you can say a little more about, how that works with a family or a person who's in transition.
Well, in our speak, it's called the decision-free zone. So you agree with the client that there's certain decisions that aren't going to be made at this point. Really, so you do some triage, like what things have to be done, and what things can be left. And you leave what can be left so that the person has time to process, what's happening to them and what's going on with them. And only take care of what really has to be done. And just agree that these other decisions aren't going to be made, and we're going to wait until some period in the future together before we make those decisions. So it's really setting up that agreement with the client that it's okay to leave the money in a money market. It's okay to not decide whether you're going to sell your house or not. It's okay to do any of those kinds of things. It's just okay. It's just to be where you are today. And depending on, what transition we're talking about, sometimes it's hard to get up the next morning, right? For some widows and widowers.
Yeah. Sometimes it is. And yet I think there's so much value in just saying, I know you've been thinking about, like, you might want to sell the house, but you got to tell you, if, this is a difficult and expensive decision to unwind if you rush into something and it's really not, you're running away from something more than towards something. So taking that space and knowing that financially it's going to be okay, like everything else is in order and we'll take care of what's important. I think providing that spaciousness is a tremendous gift in a difficult time.
Mm-hmm. And people are ready for things as we go on, right? Yeah, I'd say for a lot of widows, like at least a year or a year and a half before they're ready for, and sometimes longer. And you have to let them know it's okay, because everyone else is telling them that they should be over this, right? So everyone else in their life is saying, oh, it's been a year, you should be doing great, and that's not true. Some people, it takes much, much longer. Or there's things that pop up, like anniversaries, like the anniversary birthdays, like the anniversary of the death. All these things are like important to remember and think about as much as we can.
Sure. It almost feels like you have to cycle through that year of things before, I don't know, it just seems to me like you need to get through that birthday, the holidays, the special all the special times you would normally be with your partner, as a remembrance that they're not there for the first time on all of those before there becomes even a window that, things might be different, but it's,
yep.
Yeah, everybody's got their own pace with these things for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I'm talking about these difficult transitions, but maybe share a little more about, the opportunities or the things that you've seen come through this that open a whole new door to a blossoming, as you mentioned.
Well, let's take retirement, which is something that most people look forward to, but not everybody plans for. So I think as you said earlier, planning for going to is really, really important for people to build something. And so we spend a fair amount of time with retiring clients on, what is retirement going to look like for them? Does it mean volunteering? Does it mean spending more time with family, traveling from family to family, going on trips with family, building a new business? It can do all kinds of different things that people do. But it's having, and it may change. I know my mom, for instance, had this list of things she was going to do. And one of them was learn to play the guitar. She bought a guitar, but that's all she's done. So sometimes there's things on the list that maybe end up not really being that important, I have to say. But at least she had all these ideas about what she wanted to do. And not all of them pan out, but you at least have this time of trying things out.
Yeah, and there's an excitement that can go with that, along with, I think it's always awkward to be a beginner, but if we can embrace that, it opens up its own new language for things, and its new way of being with the world.
Mm-hmm.
Could you talk a bit about that transition of retirement, right? Because I know I worked with several clients who we have a plan, everything seems great, but when it actually comes to retire, even though the plan is perfect and they have these goals and ideas, the fact of leaving their job is suddenly hits them so hard. They start pushing it off by 6 months, 6 months, 6 months. How does that transition work for people? Or how have you seen that in your experience?
It's happened to my clients too, but I think we have to dig down a little bit about why. So for some people, there's a financial scarcity thing going on, right? They're just afraid they don't have enough. And it's going to be different. And sometimes it's a matter of structuring like a replacement paycheck. So if we can structure a monthly payment that looks like a paycheck, so they feel like they're in control of their finances, just like they were before, right? That helps a lot of people become more comfortable. But I would say that cash flow gets crazy right after retirement. People just, whatever they did before suddenly isn't working anymore. And they have to kind of get used to a new normal. And I think it takes people at least a year, maybe 2, for that cash flow to kind of normalize, I would say. I mean, I think people put off a lot of like repairs in their house, which they don't have time to do when they're working full time. And then suddenly they have time for these projects. So there's a little bit of money that goes usually to the house. And maybe there's a trip or 2 that they've been putting off for decades that they do in retirement, like right after retirement. So that's those first couple of years. And you just have to give people a little space to go, it's okay. It's okay if you spend a little more than maybe we had planned. It's as long as it doesn't go on again, then I think it works out fine. So I think for those clients who are having trouble, I would find out why they're having trouble leaving. So what's lying underneath that? Is it this insecurity about where's the money going to come from to pay my bills next month? Or is it a real panic about what am I really going to do? So sometimes you could have people I love mini experiments. So if they're thinking about living somewhere else, have they gone and spent more than a couple weeks there? I mean, maybe that's the first thing they do is they plan a month somewhere else, or something like that. So I think there's tools we can use to kind of dig down just a little bit to find out why, what's going on. And sometimes it might be a really good reason. And they kind of just need to brainstorm more about what they're really going to do. Right. I think it's harder for men than women, by the way.
I was just going to ask that. Have you noticed a difference in men and women?
Yeah. In my experience, it's a little more difficult for most men because their identity is a little more part of, like, their profession is part of their identity. For women, it's usually they have a bigger social network. They have other things that they're involved with, even single women. Their transition is really not usually as difficult for them. They're like looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, and I do think you're right, though. And I had this conversation with a client who basically had been the stay-at-home parent for a number of years, but then it's like, how would he feel if I just showed up at his office every day for the next month? Like, and because now that he was retired, he was in her office every day and kind of in her way. So they had to figure out, like, all right, well, what are you going to do? Like, you need a shed, like you had a hobby, something you've always wanted to do. And, because we have a lot of more time together, but sometimes it's a lot of togetherness pretty quickly after you've been going to the office for 40 years. So yeah, we got to figure it out.
When I was a little kid, there was a neighbor couple, and he had retired and she went back to work. And she told him, I married you for better or worse, but not for lunch. So I always remember that one.
Yeah, that's perfect. And yeah, it's true. It's a lot of togetherness if it's all the time.
Yeah, it is.
All right. Well, we're coming towards the end of our time. We have some kind of rapid fire questions we like to go through with all of our guests. So first is, what is your favorite animal?
Oh, my favorite animal is an African wild dog, or painted wolf, also known as.
Yeah. And you've, say more about that, because I know there's more to that story.
Yeah, we've supported a conservation project in Zimbabwe for probably 20 years. So it's been really rewarding to see how much they've grown since we first started volunteering with them and sending them money.
And you have two Bazinjis, which are somewhat related.
No, the African wild dogs are a completely different genus.
Oh,
So they're not canis like our dogs and wolves and most of the wild dogs that you think about.
I see.
I have great fondness for all wild dogs, which mine occasionally act that way.
Yeah, I can imagine. How about what do you think is the best money that you've ever spent?
I don't know. I guess our first trip to Africa, which was in 1996. So it was kind of maybe a big stretch for our budgets at the time, but it was worth it.
Yeah. Is that how you became more connected with the project in Zimbabwe?
Mm-hmm. Yep. We saw signs for if you took pictures of dogs, you were supposed to send them into this group.
Nice. Well, I know that your husband's a naturalist and photographer, so know that probably caught his attention right away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you were going to go buy some happiness, what would you buy and how much would it cost?
I'm just going to go and say you can't really buy it.
All right, great.
I'll just say it right there.
So what would you do then? We'll pivot the question a little.
I think getting out in nature, sometimes it's expensive, sometimes it's cheap, but you can always usually find some happiness and connection there.
Yeah, I often forget that when I think about, we do these big trips in the summer and it's wonderful to be in the mountains. But if I go here in New Orleans to the park by the river, it's 90% of that. It's almost all of it. It's not quite the same, but you get a lot of the same things out of it.
Yeah.
How about the last achievement that you celebrated and how'd you celebrate that?
I haven't really done anything recently. I can't say.
Okay. I feel like we need maybe a continuing ed course on celebrating your achievements, because this is always the hardest one for the planning center people to answer.
Yes, none of us like to, as Ed Jacobson, for those of you who knew him, he used to say, none of you like to cavell about yourself.
Right. Well, and Ed came up on the last podcast too. So it's interesting. He's been part of a lot of our stories. So we'll need to find a way to capture that too.
It'd be great to do a podcast about Ed.
Yeah.
And all he taught us.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I mean, we've got a new team member here, and I have a section of books on a bookshelf. It's books that changed my life. And one of them was Ed's Appreciative Moments and Change Your Questions, Change Your Life, about appreciative inquiry that he led me to. So I think many of us have things we would share about Ed. So put that one on the list.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Travel. Favorite place to visit?
I have to go back to Zimbabwe, where I'm going next month. So it'll be good.
Yeah, I kind of thought that might be. But then, all right. So how about a favorite or a dream trip you haven't done, or a place that you've wanted to go but haven't gotten there yet?
Well, we've been thinking on and off about going to India. So
seems like a great adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Best advice that anybody ever gave you?
I guess I'll go back to some of my mom's advice, which is pretending you have more confidence until you have the confidence.
Fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it. I wasn't going to say that one, but that's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
I think it's a central part of a lot of our training. And even I think many of us who have lots of ability don't always see how much is there. So it's, it's great to be around this group of people because we are so supportive and we'll build each other up. So help you remember that when you might be struggling, that there's a lot there that offer. So wonderful. Well, Michelle, it's been really fun having you on the podcast. Any final thoughts that you'd like to share?
Just remember, if you're in the middle of a transition, that we can help you.
We've all got some background in that, but you're one of the best ones. And again, I've been fortunate to sit in a bunch of meetings with you and your mom that learned so much from being in those conversations and seeing how you all handled those. That I think it's just such a gift to the families that y'all get to work with. So anyways, thanks for being here and being part of the conversation. One of our partners here. So that'll conclude today's episode of Living Beyond the Numbers. Thanks for tuning in. Please like and subscribe and send us a message, and we'll see you in next episode.